Let's come to our second story, and that concerns day 133 of the Palestine-Israel conflict, and whether on the one side we see attempts at some kind of end to this escalation of violence, or maybe a way forward towards a two-state solution. On the other hand, we see what is happening in the Nasser hospital, and the way Israel is also preparing itself for this on-ground assault on Rafah, where 1.5 million people are cramped in that small space. What is going to be the future of Palestine and the Palestinian people? For that and more, we've been joined in the studios by Dr. Naela Chohan Sahiba. She's a former ambassador, and she's right here with us. Dr. Naela Chohan, thank you very much to have joined us. Ma'am, let's begin with the state of the people in Palestine. In Gaza, these Palestinians are in a famine-like situation. The United Nations has said time and again that there is a huge risk of famine as far as the Palestinians are concerned. Is starvation of the civilians being used as a weapon of war by Israel?
Definitely it is, and it is a very grave situation, which is compounded with a continued air offensive. At this moment, there is a lot of effort going on to stop this atrocity. Many initiatives are being taken, but as far as the plight of the people of Palestine is concerned, it is beyond words.
We don't know if it would really not amusing, but disturbs me to a large extent. Is that everybody knows that the plight of the people of Palestine is beyond words. But what we are seeing right now is the Israeli army preparing itself to enter through a ground offensive in Rafah. That is the only place where the maximum Palestinians are cramped as we speak. They've already done the aerial offensive, and they are continuing with that. But now comes the ground offensive. The US says it is going to try to stop them. Other countries are trying as well. The Brazilian president denounces Israel's war against Palestine in the Gaza Strip as collective punishment. Do these statements matter at the end of the day? Shouldn't the key word be action, action and action against the Israeli atrocities?
But words are equally important.
Okay.
Exposing the wrongdoing is equally important. So we should not minimize the sentiments that are being expressed at international fora by different quarters. Action definitely, but action is basically implementation of the words. So words have to come first. What we say, political will has to be demonstrated by the concerned quarters to bring an end to this mayhem and to the atrocities.
Now, Naela Chohan Sahiba, the Washington Post reports, because I have to quote this, US President Joe Biden's administration and this is what they are saying, a small group of Arab nations are working on a comprehensive peace plan which includes a firm timeline for the establishment of a Palestinian state, quote unquote. This proposal has been slammed not only by Israel's national security minister, but also by the finance minister. And the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will continue to oppose the unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state, as it would be a huge reward to unprecedented terrorism, quote unquote. What does that bode now if with these statements and this opposition for the future of the people of Palestine, for the future of the Middle East?
You see, you have to bear in mind the internal dynamics. Right now, as you're well aware, that leaders are meeting in Munich. And in that, there is Egyptian representation, the Saudi representation, Blinken is going to be there. From Israel, who are there? Their president and their foreign minister, not Prime Minister Netanyahu. So the question arises, why is Netanyahu not part of it? The reason, in my view, could be wrong, is that Netanyahu is now leading a very rightist, wing.
Extreme right wing, I should even say.
Yes, you could say that. And his own survival is at threat. All these statements, because you know he is a politician at the end of the day, and they are going into elections. So Netanyahu's survival is on that, because those who are supporting are extreme right wing Zionists. If Netanyahu shows any softness, he will lose his vote bank. He can ill afford at this moment when he is going into elections. So that is why he is making these bellicose statements. But what will be the ground reality remains to be seen. What comes out of Munich, because they are meeting today, and you are well aware that David Cameron has said that now the Palestine state should be recognized and made full member of the United Nations. And this proposal has been supported by many countries of the West. So it means UK, France, Germany, and USA also has given its green signal. Even Iran, which is not part of the Munich dialogue that is going to take place, has said that they are willing to go along with it. So there is that light at the end of the tunnel, but there are certain prerequisites, and the prerequisites are the internal dynamics of Palestine also, because as you know, due to political gamesmanship, Palestinians have been fragmented into groups. So there is PA, and then there is Hamas. How to bring them together, because Israel has said it is not going to negotiate with Hamas. Many Western countries endorse that point of view. So how do they now react? Mahmoud Abbas has said categorically that Hamas should now come to settlement with Israel. Hamas does not even recognize Israel. So just as Israel is not recognizing Palestine, Hamas also does not recognize Israel. But if they can come into some sort of understanding within Palestinian body itself, that how to, because Hamas is not a terrorist group, it is a politically elected group, because PA was basically more political wing and Hamas was the military wing, but they were also politically elected. So they are not non-representatives of the people, they are representatives of the people as much. But due to internal fragmentation, the enemy benefits from it. So I think at this moment the situation is very delicate, as I see. Israel has its own internal dynamics, due to which Netanyahu is making these statements and is saying, as you said, get into Rafah, ground offensive. You can see Egypt is building a buffer zone, because Egypt is cognizant of how Israelis have been behaving, and they are concerned that Israel will try to push Palestinians into Sinai, into Egyptian territory, which Egypt does not want. So they are making the buffer. Now if there is a buffer there, and here Rafah was basically a refugee city, it was supposed to be a safe haven for the refugees. Now that is being attacked. So where do they go? They cannot escape to Sinai. These armed forces are coming on this side, and now Algeria has also taken an initiative, a resolution in UN Security Council. South Africa, which had taken the case to ICJ,
has again asked
that look at the recent developments, look at how Israel continues to overlook the advice by ICJ, because ICJ as yet, you know, the deliberations will take 2-3 years, but ICJ advised that Israel should not commit atrocities which are beyond the threshold and come into the genocide convention, because genocide convention defines what level of atrocities would be legally called genocide. Now Israel is trespassing that. So, it is falling into genocide convention. So, if once it does that, then it will be in big trouble. So, South Africa has brought this to the attention of ICJ. Algeria is making that resolution there. So, at all quarters there is active diplomacy that is going on, and just this idea that the West has agreed to now talk about the Palestine state. So, even if Netanyahu says no, which he has to say no if he has to survive, the President of Israel and their foreign minister are there to negotiate. So, it's a
so
very
doesn't that make the Israeli politics also divisive as far as decisions are taken?
It is very fragmented. It is very fragmented. Why do you think there were protests in front of Netanyahu's office when it was the hostage crisis? Because they said he is warmonger, he is not considering saving the lives of the hostages. So, yes, Israel is very much fragmented, but unfortunately so is Palestine.
Then what needs to be done? I mean, you talk about the process in Munich that is going on. There are also the statements that Germany, France, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Turkey, Egypt have taken out to tell Israel to stop the ground offensive in Rafah and work for a ceasefire. Then South Africa, we just discussed about that. The OIC has condemned the military aggression of Israel on Gaza and these indiscriminate attacks on Rafah as well. You say the statements are a beginning. What should be the end? What could be the end of those? Will this Munich, because there have been so many talks in the past as well, whether it be through the United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, there was a coalition of members of Arab countries that were going from pillar to post to discuss some kind of a solution to it. But what did they yield at the end of the day? Should we, put our hopes on the Munich meet?
Well, you see, all these initiatives that you have alluded to have contributed to positive developments.
Okay.
It didn't happen in one day.
Of course.
So, when they were going from pillar to post, as you said, they were creating that sensitivity. Now, that sensitivity is bearing fruit.
Okay.
And they are continuing to negotiate, because at the end of the day, peaceful negotiated settlement would be sustainable and durable. So, that is going on. It is difficult to predict the outcome of Munich, but somehow I feel more confident in this development.
All right, let's hope that then something comes out of it. Then what happened? You've seen what happened to the Nasser hospital, not the first hospital to be bombarded the way, and then they say they're looking for
Hamas.
of course, and those Palestinian fighters. And then this is not the first hospital. We've seen the incursions in other hospitals as well. What did that yield? What will this yield? Will this be the last of the hospitals? What will be the fate of all the patients who are there, which were given assurances that they will not be targeted, but in fact they were at the end of the day?
So, that exposes Israel's hypocrisy, because earlier on also you remember how many hospitals have they attacked, and every time the Indonesian hospital, the other hospitals, they have been attacking, and they said no, we are targeting just Hamas, we are just targeting what they call terrorists. In effect, they are targeting innocent people, they are targeting civilians, they are targeting Palestinians, not Hamas. And this is just a pretext, and they continue to do so. So, their words belie their deeds. And how far can you continue telling the same lie over and over again? So, now the world is not willing to buy this argument that Israel is presenting.
But Naela Chohan, the world is still backing Israel. A lot of important global players are still backing Israel with military aid, with financial aid. Shouldn't cease or a pause in that bring Israel to to its senses maybe?
Hopefully, you're right that there is tacit and visible support to Israel, but now even Biden has made that statement that you just referred to, that Israel now has to be more careful on how it is moving on the ground. And USA now, for the first time, has warned Netanyahu, you know. So that is a positive indicator.
Okay.
You know, I hope that now, despite all the atrocities, despite all the suffering, there may be some light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's hope for that light at the end of the tunnel, because you know, when you look at the number of casualties, it's staggering by any amount.
I know.
When you look at the way, not just the casualties, the way even those people who are still somehow standing on their feet are being targeted by the lack of water, food, medicine, basic necessities, and the fear, the psychosis that is prevalent amongst the children, 17,000 of whom have perished. You know, this is something that will take decades for Palestine to come out of.
There is no justification that for 1,200 people that Israel claims died, they have killed 29,000 people. There's no ratio there.
There's no ratio. And just look, I mean, and the number of injured, 69, almost 69,000.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I fail to see why and how this happened. And I just hope, like you said, that better sense prevails amongst the big powers that can make that change, that can pressurize Israel, and that, you know, moods such as that in Munich and others reap the dividends. And finally, we see the state of Palestine being made, and the people of Palestine, at least those who are still remaining, or those who have still some kind of land on them, you know, to continue with their lives somehow in some kind of normalcy. I just wish and I hope, inshallah, that is all we can say. Thank you very much, Naela Chohan Sahiba, former ambassador and foreign policy expert, to have joined us, to have talked to us on this very, very important topic. Let's come to our last stories very quickly. First concerns Manipur, where 2 people have died and scores have been injured in clashes. And this is something that has been going on since quite some time. We all know about this clash between the 2 groups, that is that of Methi and minority Kuki communities in the state. We all know also that this borders Myanmar. We also know that you know, thousands are still displaced in relief camps. We know that over 200 people have died since last May in this fierce fighting between the 2. And you know, the thing is that in this whole, there's a lot of politics at play as well. There's a lot of, you know, backing by the BJP government of one group, and the other group that feels neglected, and that gives to a rise of more tensions. And we see that continue to happen. Let's hope also with elections in India underway, maybe some kind of sense will prevail, although I don't foresee that, but who knows, maybe something good might come out as far as Manipur is concerned. But as we speak, the violence continues. As we speak, the number of casualties also increase. Next, let's take you to the United States of America, where in Florida, a man who was imprisoned for 37 years for a murder he did not commit finally got out in 2020, and now he has sued the Tampa state, and he will be getting $14 million in compensation for all that he had suffered during these 37 years. He will be getting $9 million this year, $3 million next year, $2 million in 2026, according to the city documents. Robert Dubois is the name of that person. He spent 37 years in a Florida prison for a 1983 rape and murder he did not commit. Of course, it wasn't until 2018, with the help of Innocence Project organization, that prosecutors agreed to give that case another look. Now that they have more, you know, intense examination methods, just like DNA analysis, it was found out that he was not the person behind it, but 2 others who were still serving jail were, and in fact that has changed everything. The woman, Grams, was sexually assaulted and beaten to death in August of 1983 as she walked home from a job in a Tampa restaurant. So finally, after 37 years, ladies and gentlemen, some kind of justice did prevail, and he is getting this $14 million, which I don't feel is a just compensation for 37 years, but nevertheless, it is some kind of compensation. Finally, a new species, skeleton panda, has been found in Japan. This skeleton panda, C squat, as you can see in the parallel images on your windows. Has distinctive skeleton-like body structure and panda-like spots as well. Although a lot of researchers who have researched this say that they don't know what the origin of these panda-like spots are, whether it is evolution, whether it is genetics, or whether it is a new species altogether. Nevertheless, it's a very interesting species that has been discovered, and of course it puts those scientists who devour, who discuss marine life, even more interested in this whole new species that has come up. More and more species will also come up, because this is evolution, this is genetics, and that is how things evolve. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's news, and we'll see you inshallah on Monday with news story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. It's the weekend. Have a wonderful one, but stay safe. Allah Hafiz.